guys, hello, welcome back to my video series called A Little Catch Up With. In this series, I discuss with creatives and musicians about mental health. Mental health is a topic that should be spoken about and shouldn't be afraid to be spoken about, and I feel isn't spoken about enough, and particularly the last few months. It's been a very, very tough ride for musicians and creatives alike, and that affects people's mental health in numerous ways. So that is what this series is about. People sharing their stories, me sharing my stories and experience and how they cope with mental health, and hopefully you guys get some value from it and feel that you're not alone when it comes to mental health. Here with me today, we've been friends for a while on the Book of Face, this big scary Facebook. Mr. Peter Abrams, how you doing, man?
I am well.
I hope I pronounced your second name right.
Yeah, do you know most people whack an H in there and say Abrahams?
Abrahams, yeah.
I've learnt to just let go of.
Fair.
They call me worse at certain points.
Yeah.
And, so we should all call each other what we like.
Exactly, yeah.
As long as it doesn't upset
As long as
anybody.
it's all nice and stuff, yeah. How you doing though, mate?
Yeah, good, man. We're just starting out, obviously, with our band Current Affairs, and we've just put our first single out a couple months back.
Great single, by the way. Great
Thank
single.
you,
I'll
yeah.
put that in the links in the description for this video.
Love and Other Drugs. We'll go straight into the promo shit.
Why not?
Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you watched Kieran's, like, it was non-stop swearing. It was brilliant.
Fucking hell, it's brilliant. No, so we put it out, Love and Other Drugs. I had no idea what the response would be like. Was very positive, really good stuff.
Great song, really good song.
And so going forward, it's just like we spoke about before we started filming, building a foundation.
Definitely.
And working towards a couple more singles, get to an EP. At that point, we'll have a nice body of work to say, this is who we are. Someone help us out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which is kind of a modern world now for music.
I think it's cool that you're doing an EP, because although I love listening to an album all the way through, not many people do anymore, do they? It's like singles, B-sides and EPs. I don't know many people that will listen to an album from track to track 1 to track 12.
Yeah, I mean, the attention span within the average human being now is
so much lower.
It's actually, don't know if you know this, it's actually got to a point now, present day speaking, that an average human male has the same attention span as a chimpanzee.
Wow.
So not intelligence, logical thinking, but actually attention span, being able to concentrate on something the same as a chimpanzee. So it's gone down a bit, and basically what that means is that the way we're now engaging and indulging in content changes.
Definitely.
And it's one of two ways. You'll know, when was the last time you watched a TV series that came out in weekly episodes? Very rarely now. What we want is short form, like a little 5-minute video.
Definitely.
Or little 3-minute pop song, or we want a 25-song album, or 6 seasons worth of some series on Netflix, which you're watching one after the other.
Yeah.
That sort of middle range of 12, 15 songs on an album, unless you've got a really die-hard invested following, I don't know if it will be engaged with as well.
And what I've noticed is, for example, someone like Post Malone, his last album, his second album, Beer Bongs and Bentleys, it was 18 tracks, but all the tracks were quite short in length anyway. They were all like 2-3 minute ones, so there's nothing longer than like 4 minutes.
Yeah, there's obviously different ways of doing it, but Post Malone is a great example, because go back maybe even a year ago, I've been talking about this recently, I wasn't a massive Post Malone fan, respect what he does.
Nor was I, to be fair.
But then I watched certain interviews with him. I watched he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, which I
was
love.
hilarious. Absolutely
and
hilarious.
I just fell in love with this dude. I thought this guy's brilliant. And what it showed to me, or what it confirmed to me, was that it's so important to produce art which people want to invest in.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can do that through what you're doing or how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because, that album, Hollywood's Bleeding, has been out for over a year now, maybe coming up to a year. And never at one point was I inclined to click on it and listen. Because I had no investment there.
Yeah.
I watch a good interview, I watch a good little podcast, and I go, God, I quite like this guy actually. And then I listen to all of his songs, and you realise that's the key thing.
I think that's what sold it to me, his personality. Like, when I would be honest, I judged a book by his cover. I just saw him and I was like, oh, it's just another sort of trap artist. I didn't take too much. I wasn't invested to it. But then I saw his interviews. He's proper down to earth guy. Then I watched. I was on Instagram and scrolling through this guitar shop account called Norman's Rare Guitars, and they posted a video of Post Malone, who went in to buy some guitars.
Oh,
great guitarist. And then he did that Nirvana cover gig.
I saw that as well.
Brilliant. And then I really invested in his music. It was sick.
This is what I'm saying, right? So as artists, it's so important now to be obviously there's different types of investment, there's financial, whatever.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is emotional.
Definitely.
You've got to produce content which people will want to invest in emotionally.
Yeah.
And the
And get
easiest
value
way,
from.
Yeah, the easiest way to do it is to be sincere and authentic.
Yeah.
Because as humans, I feel like we sniff out when someone's a little bit off and go,
it's easy to tell now, I think.
Yeah.
Really easy to tell.
And we want it because so much of the content we see is just so mass produced, battery packaged, ready to
Very much
sell.
so.
Something real, somebody real like Post Malone. Lewis Capaldi blew up because of the same thing, because he was a real, like,
down to
not
earth,
conventional, good-looking dude who just blew up, and
and
so I think we crave that a bit, which is nice. You know?
It's good though.
It's nice.
It's sort of breaking that sort of stereotype, because I think social media. We'll touch on social media and how it affects everything, like up here and stuff. But I think like Lewis Capaldi, Post Malone, they really sort of break the mold. That's cool, man. They break the mold of your typical successful musician, creative, don't they?
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
I look like this. Take it as it is.
Yeah, and I think now that it's possible to do that. Obviously, it's not just if you're a novelty act, which is like an affairs, you're going to break through guaranteed. There's obviously still the industry, the gatekeepers, all that comes with it. As the more I learn, the less I feel I know early on where we're at. But certainly, it's now possible to connect with people. And if you can connect with enough people and enough people give a damn about what you do, people will have to take note of that and listen. And that's awesome. That's where modern technology is a blessing, you know? So there you go.
So touching on modern technology and social media, obviously I don't want to date these videos too much, because maybe someone watches them a few years down the line and stuff. But at the time of recording this, hopefully we're not about to go into a second lockdown. We're just on the midst of coming out of a lockdown. I definitely feel I've been on social media way more than I should, way more than I usually would. And I definitely think that plays a part in my mental health and my sort of well-being. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it affects everybody. And if you tell me that you could sit on social media for 12 hours straight and not feel worse after it, I'd say you're lying.
Definitely.
Like, it's like science at this point.
Yeah.
It's not really made for us.
No, not at all.
You know, our natural state. But again, it's a tool, social media. And so however we choose to use it is probably reflecting where we're at. Maybe not who we are, but where we're at in a moment. Yes, social media is in your Facebooks, your Instagrams, the actual applications. Yeah. They definitely promote this. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, it's definitely not a positive thing.
Definitely.
But again, like I said, I don't want to be unfair, because it is just a tool. Yeah. And so it's like a knife and fork. Whatever you're choosing to do with it will have the result that you see. Yeah. But yeah, as far as the applications go, I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point that if you sit on it forever, you're not going to be
good, is it?
You know, at the start of the first lockdown, the first thing I did was just not go on my phone for 5 days. I set myself a little challenge. Not because I'm all like spiritual and perfect, I don't need it, because, you know, we all bloody need it.
Yeah, definitely.
Every time you hear that phone go off and you don't know who it is as a text, how long can you leave it? Probably not long.
It is hard, especially when I probably should get a work phone that's literally just for work, and delete all my like work stuff off like a social, personal phone. But yeah, if my phone went off, I'd be like, shit, who's that? Is that a friend? Is it a client? Does it work?
Yeah, but if you don't check, the longer you leave it, the more anxiety is going to build up in your brain. The more your body's like, I need to know who that is.
It's that sort of
important.
Yeah, it's that sort of creature of habit kind of sort of feeling, isn't it?
That's it. I mean, we've got a lyric in Love and Other Drugs that says, I'm hooked on attention and dopamine. You know,
very true.
It's like, that's especially like people our age. We was raised on it, so it's in our like DNA as something which is just part of life.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know that from when you speak to your nan or whatever, and you have no idea what's going on, and it's like, well, it's a different world.
It is.
There's girls on Instagram. There's this girl in particular. She's from Brazil. She's got like 7 million. Joe Rogan says about it. She's got 7 million followers. Yeah. And all she does is post pictures of her butt, of her ass, and it's like, but no one knows her name or what she sounds like or whatever. That's a whole new type of human. Yeah. You know, NASA will invest in scientists going to study a frog in Brazil no one gives a fuck about, and yet there's this woman there who's living a whole new experience as a human being.
It's mad.
Like, the power.
Like, if I had 7 million followers, the things you could do with that audience, the things for good that you can do with that audience, the shit that you could promote for like people's well-being, it's just unimaginable what you could do with 7 million people.
Yeah, there's also the add-on from that they did a study a couple months ago before the lockdown and stuff, but then they worked out that something like nearly 60% of artists like Taylor Swift's social medias were fake bot accounts.
Yeah.
Which is over half.
I remember when YouTube cracked down on it, on like bot accounts and stuff, and Instagram. I remember I lost about 150, not that it matters about numbers and stuff, but I think I lost about 150 subscribers that were bot accounts. And I was like, damn, that's a lot. Like,
it's crazy because you realise it's a self-running machine that ain't going to stop unless we all decide to change it. But when you're looking at massive artists with, we're talking like hundreds of millions of followers at this point.
Yeah. Imagine the percentage of real people.
Actually, like maybe 40% of these people aren't real.
Yeah.
You think, bloody hell. But then you think, well, you can't criticise the artist because they might not even know.
Very true.
But then you could say, well, maybe the label are pushing those numbers up to make it a smoother
make it look good,
and you realise it's a whole crazy Alice in Wonderland world of like this, because it looks good, and so it looks good, and so
it's more marketable and easy to sell, isn't it?
And then people want to be involved, and then you sit there as an artist from Hertfordshire going, oh God, 5,000 listeners, will I ever be enough?
Exactly. I don't worry about numbers. It annoys me when I get offered a gig, or I message someone. I was like, oh, are you interested in live music? Or they asked me to play. Yeah. And when the first thing they ask is, how many followers you got on Facebook? I'm like, do you not want to hear about the music? Like, that's sort of what I'm going for.
That's so naive, because that doesn't even necessarily mean anything.
No, not at all.
You could have 50,000 people who listen to every song you put out. If they're all in China,
exactly.
Like, what are you going to do when you're at Bulldog's finest and no one shows up? And this is what we said before the cameras rolling. For me, listen, on a bad day, I'm as bad as anybody, and I sit there going, "God, I need to really make sure that I do well in this because it will make me feel better when I go to sleep at night." On a good day, you take a step back and go, hold on, let's do this the right way. I'm in it for the long game. I'm doing it for the right reasons. And if you come with that attitude, like we said, the best way to do it is to focus on just building a real community. That's what I want Current Affairs to be all about. Just a real, like, authentic community, everybody supporting each other, all there for the right and good same reasons. And then from that, if it goes even further, then brilliant. But if not, it's like followers, money, all this external stuff. We're going to get deep now.
Go for it.
All this external stuff. It's like, it's numerical, it's quantitative. You're never going to get enough. It's like, it will just be the next thing, because Connor's hit 1 million and got number 38 on the charts, but now he needs to be number 24. Or he's a failure. If it's all well and good, like, if you're in the music industry and you're in the business, it's almost naive to be like, I'll just stick to my morals and do what I want and it will all be all right.
Eventually you're going to want to succeed more and more and more and do better than the thing, but when it consumes you and you're literally doing everything just to be better, then you sort of lose that rawness and that real authenticity. Because I want a sign here somewhere that just says, remember why you started. It's just like a constant reminder to, like, think of, like, this journey from why I chose this career to pursue it. I want to stay grounded, if you know what I mean, to know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, that was it. My background's doing other stuff since I was a kid. And so when I made the decision to venture into music, I made a promise and commitment to myself.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, you got to play the game of it, and you got to understand what you're doing. If you want to be successful in it, there's the process and there's the journey you're going to have to take.
Yeah.
However, that's all well and good, and have that as you're going through, have that drive, that determination, that desire to go as far as you can go with it. While you're doing it, as we're talking about mental health and stuff, have other things in your life that define who you are.
Exactly.
So that when you fall asleep at night, you're not got the stream count next to your bed going, one more and I'll be ready to sleep.
Exactly,
you got to remember.
I make a conscious effort not to watch, like, the views or anything go up now, because I thought for a while when I first started, like, taking YouTube seriously as, like, a job and editing and stuff as a job, I was very much concentrating on views, and it was just getting a little bit too much. I was getting not too much anxiety, but I was getting a little bit of anxiety about it. But now, if I'm posting a video tonight, just talking about what I've learned.
Yeah.
Making the jump to be my own boss the day before all the schools closed down, because I used to work in nurseries. I quit my job the day before all the schools and stuff were locked down. So I'm just talking about all the experience that I've learned. And I know pretty much whenever I post a video, I'll publish it and just close YouTube, close my browser, and just be like, let it do its thing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Like,
it's got to be done. Otherwise, it just gets too much.
Background, but just sitting there watching it's just mental, because like you say, it's only gonna, you're just gonna roll on to the next one and be waiting for the next thing. And it's at the start, you know, you're starting out, you're competing against giants who are run by labels who are corporations with limitless funding, maybe not limitless funding, but a lot more funding
got a budget,
than you've got. And it's a whole machine, it's a whole industry. Macklemore, despite of his like sort of commercial hits, has got a song where he talks about all of this, and he's got a brilliant lyric that says, "We're dressed as a celebration to conceal it's a business."
Yeah, it's very true. That
and
really true.
That hit me when I heard that. I thought, this is a guy who did thrift shop, what? But yeah, and I heard that lyric and I thought, you know, if you're gonna do it, you've got to understand it's a business. There's gonna be that side of things. But like we say, when it comes to mental health and how you're addressing it as a listener or an artist, just as a human fucking being, it's like you've got to remember it's not about the profit, and it's not about these stream numbers. The messages I'm sure you get and that we've started to get of people who go, "Wow, I've heard that song, man. It's really hit a chord with me." You go, "Fucking hell, that's amazing."
Yeah.
You know, the fact that you can do that is special enough in itself.
Definitely.
You don't need to lay awake at night worrying because you haven't got as many listens as, you know, one of these huge artists.
I like why I'm doing this series is so, one, I can get a good and better understanding about mental health. Two, people have like the sort of the safe space to say how they feel and how their mental health's affecting them. But three, I'm not doing like this kind of series for like the views or to completely get out there. I'm doing it so people don't like feel alone. If I get one message that, like, literally, if I just get one message of someone say, "Oh yeah, really, really enjoyed this, you know, I feel the same," that's way better. That means way more to me if this gets like 100,000 views or something.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant, and I respect that a lot. That was my humble beginnings when I, you know, published my book and stuff. Is I thought,
we'll touch on that.
Someone other than my mum reads this and it benefits, and that'll be great.
Yeah,
and actually, sometimes that realness and that authenticity is I don't even know how to say it, but that's what grabs people.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I think
it's more relatable, great. Isn't it? And people can make that connection.
Yeah, and without that, you're competing against even more different people. It's the great paradox of it. You know, if you're not being authentically yourself and you're trying to funnel yourself into this perfect packaged commercial content producer, whether it be an artist or a video maker or whatever, everybody's trying to do that. So it's actually going against what you should be doing. Yeah, even if you were going through that route. So definitely, but we get sold the idea. So we like to believe in the dream. Yeah, but you can take permission from yourself to do what you like.
Exactly, mate.
And that's quite a special thing.
It's like you got to be kind to yourself in a way, haven't you, with it?
Yeah, and that's the mental health side of things. That's for me where it all started from. Because as a kid growing up, as I'm sure most people our age maybe, but certainly most artists or anybody I've come across who's struggled with whatever. Yeah. When I was a kid, I was the same because, you know, you're told, my name's Connor, I'm born in Baldock, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to sit very still and I'm going to get a job and I'm going to earn this much. I'm going to be taught all these facts I'm going to memorise.
It's a system, isn't it?
And they're going to be telling me what reality is and how it works. But if there's some part of you that's got like this deep yearning desire, like I can hear the trees talk and you're in the playground thinking, cool, I'm a bit weird. No wonder you feel mental.
See, for me, I like, for anyone who's not watched any of the previous episodes or doesn't know sort of my history of mental health, I got a very, very late diagnosis about 5 years ago of high functioning autism. So I basically went through the entirety of primary school, secondary school, nursery, college, not basically understanding how I see the world, why I process things in a different way to how someone else who may not be on the spectrum processes things. It in a way, not knowing sort of helped in a way because it sort of hardened me up to the rest of the world, if you know what I mean.
Right, okay. Yeah, but within that, there's that loneliness of no one understands me. Yeah. You know?
There was a lot of questions for me, definitely. Like getting the diagnosis about, I think, 5-6 years ago was a huge weight off my shoulders. Yeah. It was a huge understanding. Like I spoke to someone yesterday on the series about labels. I didn't see of it as a label. I just felt of it more of as an understanding, if you know what I mean.
That's an amazing way to look at it. And obviously it sounds like you were in a position of not understanding your own mind, and so by having that diagnosis, it gave some context to probably the whole last education you've been going through. The label thing is how the world works, because again, we can get deep, but it's because the more labels that there are and the more external things we're pushed on, and that can be a negative thing of, you know, you're not pretty enough or you're not good enough. That it can also be a positive thing of, you're good because you got these nice boots on, or you know, you've got lovely long hair. Whatever it is.
Thanks, I grew it myself.
Whatever it is, it's all external labels.
Oh, definitely.
And it's all well and good with a pinch of salt, and when we're coming from a place of understanding. Yeah, this is my background, how you see it. But when we are defining ourselves by these external phenomena, it will only end in some sort of confusion and disillusion with the world around us, because our consciousness and our state, our mental place we're coming from during the daytimes and the night times, we're sitting up. It's not the real you.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're defined by these external things, it's not the real you. It's not what I say 3 a.m. you.
Yeah.
And you wake up, need a drink, and you go, oh God, will the world turn in my favour tomorrow? Am I so alone?
Yeah.
Or that real you, the person that's behind your eyes as we're talking and you're listening, not look, we try our hardest. I'm wearing my nice Aerosmith vest. And,
nice, love it.
And we do what we do, but there's got to be, if we want to feel balanced, something beyond that. Yeah, because as a kid, I was raised in a very comfortable, safe world. And then as I got older and realised, cool, my brain don't really work like other people's brains work. I feel a little bit different, or I can't cope with that. Yeah. And then you get to like, I was at 14, 15. My mates are like first girlfriends, first boyfriends. And I'm like, oh my God, what's the nature of consciousness? What happens after we die? Yeah. You better give me some coping mechanisms, man, or I'm going to freak the fuck out. Yeah. So it's like...
speaking of coping mechanisms, what would you say works for you? Like...
Oh, coping mechanisms are necessary. You know, it's not a dessert where if you've still got a little bit of a stomach left, you might have a nibble. Like, coping mechanisms are necessary, definitely, to deal with the world, because it's so loud. And listen, if you want to venture into these creative industries, you got to have some fucking thick skin, or coping mechanisms, or you're gonna freak out. You know, for me, I take it back to. I suppose mindfulness, spirituality, meditation. It gets amazing. A bit woo-woo and people freak out about that. And my whole last 3 years has been spent in festivals where it's all lovey-dovey, kissy wonderland. Like it, and that was great. But that's not what it is for me. You know, I'm aware you got to get food on the table. Yeah. There's reality. I'm not talking about this airy-fairy wonderland. However, for me, it's about remaining present. Definitely. And I always say that the past is your memories, and they're probably not even that true. The future is your expectation, anticipations, which again are probably based in something other than what the actuality of it is. The now, as any expert anywhere ever says, is the only thing that you're actually experiencing. Yeah. If you can remain as present in that as possible, you're probably putting yourself in the best position to, one, cope with the stress of being alive, and two, give yourself a best chance to do something quite special. Yeah. So for me, like I've said this a few times on each one of these episodes. For me, if I think it's getting a little bit overwhelming, shutting myself away is the perfect time. You know, that alone time, that stillness, that presenceness. You know, I'll go to meditate, like 10 minutes of just like deep breathing, perfect for me. For someone else, it might be completely different. Being alone could be the worst thing ever. But for me, like that mindfulness and time to be sort of present with myself and my surroundings, game changer. Yeah, absolute game changer. You know, I was fortunate enough when I was about 16, 17, I went and stayed with some monks in Thailand and got to live in their monastery and just see the operations of it. And, you know, obviously I wasn't quite converted the full way. But you got to experience that way of life. Yeah, and you take a look back and I'm not even saying it's the answer, because there's flaws within that as well. Yeah. The reality is that nobody really knows. We're all trying to work out the same shit. It's an individual process. Some things may work for some people, but meditation and sitting there for 10 minutes might be the worst thing ever. It could not help. You know, yes, but you can't really argue with like 3,000 years of meditative practice. Very true. That, if applied properly, will benefit you. Yeah. I'm not like a spirituality, a belief system, whatever, is for you. Yeah. Alone. It's individual. It's necessary for you to cope with the world. What I don't like, and what I've experienced a lot of, was going to these festivals, getting sold fancy salt lamps for 80 quid and going, now you're balanced. It's like, okay, that's probably the same beast in a different window shop dressing. Yeah. my spirituality is for me and me alone, and I use that to then show up in the world as hopefully the best person I can be.
Yeah.
At the same time, take the pressure off yourself, because it's bloody difficult, and
Absolutely.
more times than not, you're probably going to let yourself down. That's when the whole aspect of forgiveness and understanding comes in, and that's the tricky bit, because we all struggle with that, because of, you know, we were told be the best little snowflake you can be, you're really unique, and then you show up in the actual world. But the point I'm making is, when it comes to meditation, mindfulness, it can be whatever you decide it to be or what you decide it to be.
Yeah.
It's for you.
Definitely.
However, I do believe some form of aspect is important in your life if you're struggling with things. Listen, if you can show up to the world and walk around Oxford Street and feel brilliant and go, cool, London's a fantastic sensory overload, then crack on.
Yeah.
But if you're walking through going, oh my God, everyone's looking at me, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, you probably need to relax and breathe a little bit with your eyes shut.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because, everybody's different when it comes to that. Some experiences might be great. Like we said, going to like a busy shopping area might be the perfect sort of thing they need as their like pick me up for the day. For some people, worst thing ever could just be way too much.
Yeah. And we can bring it back around there to music and stuff, because biologists, all the scientists, fancy people in the world, they're doing a lot of studies now, and more the idea is becoming that an altered state of consciousness is our fourth most wanted desire. So you've obviously got the ones we all know and love: food and water, shelter, security, sex. After that, it seems like the next thing that humans want the most, and animals, mammals, is an altered state of consciousness, which means basically we all just want to get off our nut a bit, which is crazy to think about. And for me, I've dealt a lot with addictions, and a lot of the work I've done has then led to dealing with people with addictions and all that kind of thing. More often than not, if you look at our modern culture, I would say, I'd be bold and say a statement of, to some degree, I think we are all addicts. Yeah. To a degree.
Oh, absolutely.
That's quite heavy, and you know, and I don't upset anybody, because
we're all addicted to something.
Is heavy.
Yeah.
But in the way our culture is set up, more often than not, we're all dealing with some form of addiction.
Yeah, definitely.
And so
whether it's work, food, sex, money,
and it's the same principles.
Yeah, definitely.
And so my point is, you need to have these coping mechanisms in place and try your best to adhere to them to be able to show up as not a bumbling wreck.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And that's it. And so because that was my sort of starting place, going back to my starting point, that fourth altered state, you know, wanting to alter our state of consciousness, no wonder people end up taking drugs. No wonder people get pissed every weekend. Yeah. No wonder everyone on your series is beautifully brilliant but fucked up, because that's what we crave in a world which gives us cheap, beautiful cupcakes which are like ash and just disappear because they're worthless. Yeah. However, there are beautiful things in the world, such as music, which is what led me to want to venture into it, that can alter your state of consciousness, but in a positive way. Definitely. And take music, you to a place you've never experienced.
Music can connect people in so many different ways. Like, it's great for me. Like, if I'm having a really sort of down day, I'll just stick on my favourite song. My favourite song changes all the time, but for what I feel will alter my mood and give me that pick me up which I desire, which I need, that's usually my go-to. If I'm not doing like a meditation, or if I'm not in the place where I can, you know, comfortably sit down and do a meditation, be mindful, be present, music is usually my go-to.
Yeah, and then, you know, we've all played live gigs, and we've all been to live gigs.
Yeah, it's escapism, isn't it?
That just take you to this unbelievable place. And that's important to remember, and it's something that we should want to have in our lives, because it makes life better. Yeah. The trick is to not get too excess with it. Yeah, definitely. Going back to, I call it my bubble things. You know, I use a lot of mindfulness practice, meditation practice, but I also just have really good fucking people around me.
Yeah, we'll touch on that, definitely.
So, because I understand in myself when I fuck up, or when I'm in a position where I'm not, you know, I'm not fulfilling my intended purpose or whatever. Yeah. It's my silly little brain that got me into that mess. Yeah. So to then ask yourself to get yourself out of that mess is quite a big ask.
It's very difficult.
And something you don't need to do. You can have other people. So I've got a beautiful bubble of fucking phenomenal people who are like mentors to me, I suppose, which which keep me on the right track.
Yeah.
Because I know I will fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, I know because of how I am that if I left to my own devices without any coping mechanisms, and good guidance, people around me, etc., I'll be, you know, running down Baldock High Street getting drunk to my favourite songs going, oh, well, nothing matters, you know? So you've got to have things in place which will keep your life beautifully brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
People is a good one for that.
Absolutely. I'm eternally grateful, like, for my friends, best friend, family, my wonderful fiance, because, you know, I'm fairly confident if it wasn't for those people being around me during my low points, I probably wouldn't be here.
But yeah, well, that's
eternally grateful for that.
You know, that's a big fucking thing.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
And that's it. Is the more I've worked with people, the more events I've spoken at, but the more I've put myself out to the world, the more I realise the one thing we all crave is just the fucking mate, like a really good mate.
It's good to have your best
someone
mate.
To just and you know, it don't have to be your best friend forever, but just someone who just knows you, gives a fuck about the direction you're going in, and understands you in, you know, maybe not you 100%, but you more percent than anyone else.
Yeah.
Having those people around you will keep you on that path. And in times where I'm in my dark days and when I struggle, I rely on showing up, working hard, going back to my mechanisms of meditation, the way I try to get myself back present, and then relying on good people around me.
Definitely.
And I think if more people had good mates, less people would feel fucked up.
Yeah, definitely.
It's actually really sad how little real connection people have with each other.
It really is. For me, it's really difficult as well, because with I've always said this, there's no typical autism. Autism is my sort of main, like, mental health struggle. But for me, it's the social side of things. So eye contact, sitting still, attention span, my interests very much lead me and motivate me. But social side, I've said this numerous times in videos and podcasts and stuff. Put me on the stage in Wembley in front of 1 million people, I'd be set. I'd be perfectly comfortable in my own skin. Put me in a room with 30 people, ask me to have a conversation with them, I'd be done. I'd be absolutely fucked. I would not know where to start. My bearings would be completely lost, which is why having that good group of friends that sort of can understand my point of view, how I function, is great, because building relationships, building friendships, and more importantly maintaining those friendships is hella difficult for me. Yeah, because that social side is my downfall. I still think of autism as my superpower. Yeah, I use it to my benefit, because if I didn't have it, I don't think I would in a million years pursue music. They always say you're either great at maths or you're great at the sort of the creative side, and I think my mental health, I'm not going to say problems or issues or challenges, just in general, my mental health is most of the time a benefit for me, which is quite good. And having that good group of friends there that understand that benefit is absolutely game changing.
Well, it's good that you've got to a place in yourself where you can feel that way. You know, I think that's a great struggle for many.
It took me a good few years after my diagnosis to understand that as well, and accept that, more importantly, as well.
But again, you know, if you want to get deep, it's acceptance, it's surrendering, it's letting go of the things you can't control, because you can't control it. So no matter how long Connor works hard, it doesn't matter, because it's out of his control.
Exactly.
But by letting go, surrendering to it and moving through it, you will put yourself into a different space. Change will happen, and then you will arise anew. Yeah.
Talking about it like this, that's what this series is about. Just basically a raw sort of chat about mental health, and for people, not force them to accept that they might need help, but it's sort of like the first step towards someone maybe sat at home listening to this and they think, you know, I feel like that, you know, when I feel low, this person is, I can relate to that.
Well, yeah, it quite literally is the first step of creating change.
Yeah.
The first step is, one, accept you're fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, accept something's wrong, accept someone needs to change. That is step one.
Yeah.
Without that, you're buggered.
Yeah, definitely.
It has to come from you. It's all you. It's always you. Your victories are your celebrations. Your downfalls are your mistakes.
Yeah.
And maybe not mistakes, probably not a harsh word, but it's on you.
Yeah.
It's on you to create the change. And you might not, but then you won't see a difference.
Yeah.
It's only by surrendering and accepting that I'm fucked here. I need to sort this pattern or this behaviour out.
Exactly.
That it has any chance of altering.
Yeah. And I know, I accept my, I don't want to say weaknesses, but I accept my not my strengths. So social things, communication, not my forte. And I accept that. And I know that if I was in the position of, you know, having to be in that room of 30 people and network and communicate with them, I'd accept, you know, I'm going to be shit at this. I'm going to hate it. It's just going to be emotionally, physically draining. I'll accept that. I know it. I'll power through it, even though I know that it's not going to be my thing.
Yeah, but it's not exactly stopping you, is it? Look, we're in a lovely little studio.
Very true,
and you're making brilliant video series.
Very true.
It's not prohibiting you.
And I think that's what's empowering about the whole mental health subject as well. When you can accept that you might need that little bit of help, that little bit of support and encouragement and stuff, once you've accepted it and you know your not deficiencies, your downfalls, you're not your key strengths to it, when you can when you have a day where you've actually powered through that is like so uplifting and encouraging for it.
Yeah, and it's progress, and within that, there's going to be days where you then fall back into habits. I always think it's such a shame how we address addictions and how we address habits.
Yeah.
We smoke and then we say, right, today I'm not smoking anymore. And you'll go 15 days without having a cigarette. And then on that 15th day, it's a Friday, you're having a piss up and you go, go on,
it's
just
Friday
one.
night,
And you have one. And then people start, and then you and other people around you go, oh, well, you know, you did well. Maybe next time go for 16 days. It's such the wrong way to look at it. It should be, you smoked 5 cigarettes every day.
Yeah.
Today is your 15th day where you've had none, and now you've had one. That's a massive improvement.
Oh, hell
That's huge progress.
Absolutely.
And if we addressed our negative patterns and our destructive habits with an attitude of, let's not aim for perfection, let's aim to do a little bit better than yesterday, that would change how we approach it and probably change the results too.
Because I don't think there's no such thing as perfection. For me, I live by like a little mantra of good enough is better than perfection. Like that's what I believe.
What is perfection?
Yeah, exactly.
This is perfect, you know. Oh, but it's not the best studio I've ever been in.
Exactly, yeah.
It's
perfect for me.
Yeah.
Everyone's
again,
perfect is different.
Perfection, external, all of this shit, it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
And if you let yourself be a victim of it, you will see the results of that.
Definitely.
It's only by deciding to step out through various different means and decide to live differently, give yourself permission to live differently, that you can see positive changes.
Yeah.
We're all fucked up. Yeah. Come on, we're all fucked up.
Everybody's got their issues and demons. Maybe they're not as present and as prevalent as somebody else's who may have depression, anxiety, ADHD, but they might find themselves on a Friday night, I've eaten too much, or something like that, or I've had sometimes one too many drinks.
The outright ones, it's obvious. It's in your face. You can almost deal with it a bit easier sometimes. If someone's addicted to smack, it's like, oh, he needs help. Yeah, he's running naked in the streets.
It's the hidden and not so visible ones. Because if someone looked at me, I always say there's no typical autism. But if someone looked at me and didn't know what the traits are, the symptoms are of autism, you could just think it's a little bit odd. It's a little bit odd. But if you have an understanding of it, which is why what this series is about as well, people can have an understanding of mental health. It may not be as visible and as prevalent to the public eye as it should be, definitely should be. That it's the understanding of it which is difficult. Like I said, if someone looked at me and had no understanding of autism, they probably wouldn't pick it up. But if you went to, say, a psychologist or a teacher, nursery teacher, practitioner, college tutor, they would know. Probably because they've had that understanding, they've had that training. Of course, they would know. Yeah,
and the way to address all of this is with it's as cliche and as it is compassion.
Yeah,
it's only with kindness that no one's trying to do wrong. No one's a fuck up on purpose.
No,
and then you go, you've got to forgive yourself and others, and also be willing to be that person to listen and lend out a hand or whatever. And then you go, oh yeah, but this person's on drugs and they're really fucking annoying and they keep taking drugs, even though I've said drugs are bad.
But if you think about it, there's a reason why.
Of course.
There's a reason why that person is using drugs or alcohol, food as their escape.
It's an altered state of consciousness, which if we're taking the premise that is our fourth most wanted desire, we've got to find a way to give ourselves that, or we're going to freak out.
Exactly.
This is what I keep saying, but it's absolutely true. And no addict, no person struggling with mental health issues is doing it because they were born that way, they're fucked up, and they're always going to be that way.
There's always a root and a stem to why.
And there's always a root and a stem, no, not a stem. There's always a root out of it as well. And there's always a route to get better, is maybe not even the right word, but to change how you are. Again, there's no right or wrong. And it's cross-platform. It's your whole life. It's how, for me now, I approach being an artist or being a boyfriend or being a mate, being anything.
Yeah.
I try to keep to these principles and be of service or in purpose of what I do.
Yeah.
You seem to feel better and do better things when you are lined up with that.
Yeah. I always feel better just generally talking about it. Like the last few episodes of this, the first few episodes of this, I was worried that talking about mental health like 2 or 3 times a week and, you know, listening back to it, editing, I thought, could this be too much? But I genuinely felt so much better in myself, like a weight off my shoulders, hearing people's stories, getting a chance to sort of talk about my experience of it, my coping mechanism, hearing other people's coping mechanisms, which I've also put into practice in my day-to-day life now, has been completely beneficial, so beneficial.
Yeah, and mental health isn't an illness. Mental health isn't something that is under the covers, all naughty,
swept under the rug. Yeah,
mental health is something we all have all the time.
Definitely.
So
everybody has mental health.
Yeah, there's no reason why we can't talk about it and it be part of a weekly content because it don't need to be super emotional, but it can be.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be super positive, but it could be.
It can just be a frank chat.
Is. And again, once you just accept and surrender to it, you can then work through it and find a better way to deal with it.
Yeah. We were talking about a certain subject weaning its way into everyday life in a few months. I think hopefully in a few years, mental health can just be an open discussion where if you want to sit in the pub with a few of your mates and just be like, yeah, mate, I'm struggling. I hope one day that society's like that, where you can just sit down and just casually chat with no judgment about it and not be afraid or not be judged. That's like that ideal utopia for me, if you know what I mean.
I hope that you experience as an artist and someone who goes about things in a lovely way. I'm very fortunate in a lot of my life is around that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not before, you know, we're talking before lockdown here, but as an artist, as a speaker, as a person who's going into schools and colleges working with young people, a lot of my time is surrounded by talking about mental health and seeing people open up and seeing change. Granted, I've put myself in that position. They just wake up, oh fucking hell, everyone's talking about how unwell they are. Oh God, I should probably get equipped on how to deal with these freaks. But but because of that, it's a fuel for me and to remind myself to keep in check as well, because a lot of my life is around that. And then when you play a show or you do a live setting, that escape as well. A lot of my time is spent in a really positive, beautiful way. Yeah. And you do create that for yourself. So, you know, kudos to me. But anybody could do that is the point.
Absolutely.
And a big thing I always say and want to be a testament of is that you can do anything you want. And not because you're amazingly talented, not because you're born with it, but if you work hard and apply yourself right and just fucking give yourself permission and believe in yourself a little bit, you can see how far you can go with things.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can spin as many plates and have as many fingers and as many pies as you so want.
Yeah. See, I used to do that. I used to like work, well, I still work myself to death, but I used to like take on every single job, do everything that I could possibly do, but then it just got way too much.
Yeah.
I essentially basically had like a mini breakdown, and I was falling out of love with everything. I was work was my distraction. Work was like, whether it be gigs, music, photography, creating videos, editing, I didn't have this place, but going to my laptop and just going straight into my work. I used to do that all the time as my distraction, and then realised, you know, I probably should address this with a certain way because I was falling out of love with it. That's when like that mindfulness practice and, you know, taking time away from certain things was really beneficial.
There you go. It sounds like, obviously I don't know your whole story, but it sounds like you were filling that void with constant engagement, so you don't have to face the reality of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
We all, we're all going to do that at some point, and
it's that denial bit that leads towards the accepting part.
Yeah. Step 1, accept you're fucked and there needs to be a change. Step 3 is accept others have been more fucked than you and have sorted themselves out.
Definitely.
Because as fair and as valid as all of our issues are, we're not special. We're not, oh God, we're unlovable because we're the first people to ever go through this. There's people who are far worse and have to deal with far worse and come through that.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of seeing that as a denial thing of, oh no, I am broken, I am fragile.
Everyone is in their same way, in their own right, aren't they?
But you can use, the whole point of that step 3 is use other people who have been through what you've been through to understand that it can get better and that it will change if you go about it the right way.
Yeah. Like, it's a journey at the end of the day, isn't it? It's a long journey of sort of understanding and acceptance of it, really, isn't it?
Initially, yes. I'd say initially it's a journey to understanding, and then it's probably another journey as well to acceptance. But then after that, it's a free for all. Carry on in your day-to-day life. It doesn't stop. You know, it will always be with you, and sometimes you will be phenomenal, and sometimes you will be awful. And you will have to live with that and deal with that. It will always be with you because it is you.
Absolutely.
It is you living your
way
life.
To put it.
And that's not something to be scared of. That's not something to be worried about. What you said, it's your superpower to you. That's fantastic, because instead of being the thing that prohibits you, it could be the thing that lets you fly.
Yeah, I do not think of autism. Well, sometimes I'd love to have a conversation with someone and be in a room with 30 people and feel absolutely comfortable in my own skin. But I know that will never happen. So I've accepted that, and I'm absolutely cool with that now. So I definitely see it as a so-called superpower, because it sort of empowers me in a way.
But also I'd say give yourself the possibility that maybe one day you will be in front of 30 people.
You never know.
Listen, if it is part of who you are, it's always going to be something, but it doesn't mean you, as you with all of your DNA makeup, can't work out a way and find a position where you could do that. If not perfectly in your brain, certainly more flawlessly than the last time you did. That has that, I don't like talking in front of groups of people. Okay, but then maybe there's a point in the future, through enough practice and understanding and acceptance, that you can do it far better than you ever would have done before. And from there, who knows what it is.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, kudos to you, because you've done like TED Talks and stuff, which is amazing.
Yeah, man. Well, again, it's just like, it mainly comes about because a lot of people, you go to these wellbeing events, and honestly, everybody's an author and everybody's a speaker. And that's
Everyone's
great.
got that title.
Yeah, it's great. But after a while, I thought, okay, I see what's going on here. And it just became, I'm not gonna play lip service to it, because you've got these brilliant, beautiful charlatans in the next room selling the perfect life for $3,000 retreats. And I had some lovely woman, bless her, some old woman, walk into one of my talks. I'm in the little stage next door. I won't say the dude's name, but she's like, "Oh, is this Mister's talk?" And I was like, "No, this one's not going to rip you off for $5,000. So if you want to stay for a bit, feel free." And she did, and it was hilarious. And,
that's brilliant.
And I could see the people this is my first year doing it, and I could see the organisers at the back going, "He's not meant to be negative. We're a spiritual festival." There's an energy in anger. But anyway, the point was, I just thought I'll show up as me. Because I'm not here to talk about the meaning of life. I'm here to talk about a book I wrote. And okay, the book might address concepts like that, but I'm not going to get lost in all of this. Because of that, as it went on, people came up and was like, "Oh, that's brilliant. Would you like to do another one?" And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll roll with it. The day before my book come out, and I sit there and I think, oh God, it's so weird. because to everybody I'm like this little kid, and tomorrow I'm an author.
Yeah.
And then I'm a serious author, and then it sells well enough and I'm a best-selling author, and then I'm now talking at really cool events because I'm a best-selling author, young speaker.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but you're none of it.
Yeah.
You're all of it, of course you are, but you're none of it.
It's
you're just
a title,
you,
isn't it?
right? And so then the TED Talk come around, and they were like, "Would you like to do a TED Talk?" And I thought, bloody hell, that was something I would
Good
really
achievement.
like to
milestone.
do. I would like to do that. So I sat down with the organisers and said, I'd like to sort of just improvise it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the whole point of the TED Talk is you rehearse it for like 2 months, and then it's all very perfect.
Yeah, you've got to send it off for approvals and stuff.
Yeah, and I just sat down and I said, look, I'm young. I can get away with it because of my age. I want to just make it up on the spot.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's not really the way it's done.
It's not how we do things.
And I said, yeah, but the whole point of my talk is that life is a moving story, and that the biggest moments in your life, you ain't going to have 2 months to prepare for is the perfect presentation.
Yeah.
The whole point is you can, if you apply yourself and live by your principles, show up on a TED stage on the day in your little leather jacket and go, none of it matters.
Exactly.
Just like live your life a bit.
Yeah.
And then you walk off stage at, oh, I'm a TED speaker now, I'm really important. And then I went and got Subway, because I hadn't eaten.
Yeah.
And the woman goes, so have you done anything nice today? And I said, oh, well, actually at the university, I've just done a TED Talk. And she went, oh, what's that? No, and I laughed and I thought, there's your ego.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch, get back in line. And
That's brilliant.
and again, it was just like, the point of the story is, David Bowie, who's my big idol, has a
Huge inspiration.
brilliant quote that says when he launched his sort of little side band, Tin Machine, first album, they said,
very underrated.
oh yeah, and obviously they were like, this is really unconventional for you. Are you worried it's going to turn some fans away? And his response was, I've accepted what I do. Some people will love, some people will hate, and most people will never know it existed. And I thought, bloody hell, if David Bowie's got his ego in check, who am I to mess about?
Exactly.
So yeah,
Love
man.
that.
The TED Talks for books, current affairs now is brilliant. And listen, my business head on, my passionate head on, I'm there, I'm present. We're going to have the best time ever. We're going to have a crazy show. We're going to have a brilliant talk. But I'm personally here now, one-to-one, it's all the same thing. It's all about, can we be present? Can we, just for today, in this lovely little studio in Baldock, have a real fucking conversation?
Exactly.
And if we can do that as two people who have been connected on Facebook and have wound up in this position, that's pretty fucking special. And that will be enough for me for at least the rest of the day to feel like I've worked for some sort of purpose and
accomplished
maybe
something.
done a bit, you know, and maybe that will be enough for us.
Yeah, that's inspiring stuff, man. Well, I always wrap up these little videos with asking, because these little chats, sometimes they go really deep, sometimes they don't. But it's good to finish on like a nice light note. So I always ask my guests, what's one thing that's made you happy this week?
Accepting that consciousness is no. So as we have this week, the fact that we've our next song comes out this Friday, and we're getting playlists accepting it, and despite the previous however long of us talking about how it doesn't matter, there are little moments where I go,
oh yeah, definitely,
yeah, nice little achievement there, fantastic. So that's all good. The launch up to that is going well as well, so that's good.
That's amazing, man. Happy days. Well, thank you so much for supporting my series, wanting to be involved in it, and your honesty and just a general chat, man. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Like I say, the closing point is that we've all got a story inside of our heads. We all try and tell it the best we can, and if we all do that a bit more authentically, a bit more honestly, we can probably help each other out and be all right.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you everybody who's watched or listened to this. This has been a little catch up with Peter Abrams, and we'll see you next week.